Hi, thanks for stopping by to watch me, Leah, cook kosher. Today I want to show you how to make a very flaky pie crust because we need it for so many of the items we make. What makes this a kosher recipe in particular is the fact that we don't use lard for obvious reasons. We don't eat pork products. So we're going to make ours with vegetable shortening and margarine. I also use a parve margarine so that the dessert can be eaten at a meat meal. Yet another one of those complicated kosher rules, but that's what makes this particular recipe kosher. So I got this recipe out of Baking with Julia. It came out in the late 90s and it is so worth picking up today. There are many recipes that are invaluable, simple, and always get rave reviews. But back to this pie crust. So we're going to start with flour, our salt. Oh, by the way, all my recipes and the instructions are online at leahcookskosher.com. So don't feel like you have to keep up here. You can always go there and follow along with those instructions, all right? And shortening, which is cold. That's a real trick when making pie dough. So I have my shortening margarine. So what do we do with that? We're going to take our handy little pastry cutter and we're going to start cutting that into the flour. And just don't worry about anything but breaking that into the flour, rotating around into your bowl, and that helps get all the oils incorporated with the flour. This can also be done in the Cuisinart, but you have to be careful not to pulse it so much that it becomes one big block of margarine and flour, because we still want to be able to add our water. And another way to do it is to use just the tip of your fingers. You don't want to get your hands in there and heat up that oil. So you can just sort of feel for the bigger clumps of shortening and margarine and just sort of work it with your fingers in. This is enough dough for about 3 pie crusts. So that would be 1 double crust pie, 3 single crust pies, and whatever combination you need to make. Sort of rubbing it loosely against my fingers and the palm of my hand to sort of flatten out those balls of shortening and mix it in with the flour. There are still a few coarse pieces, but you know what? It's going to be just fine. Okay, make a little bit of a indentation, or a well, they call it in the cookbooks. And I need a cup of ice water. So I have some here. I'm just going to pour off a cup. First reaction is that this is very wet, but after a while it sets up, so don't worry. Now I always just work from the outside and cover my water over. And here again, we're going to romance it, okay? We're going to work light. You don't want to knead this. This is not dough, this is pastry. You can hear how wet it is. And that's really unique to this recipe. Most times pie crust recipes are sort of dry and hard to handle. This makes this very simple. But it will benefit from being chilled in the refrigerator for, whatever time you have, 10, 15 minutes, as long as it takes to make the filling. I've pulled my pie crust from the refrigerator, and as you can see, it's not a big ball of dough. When I mixed it, I only mixed it to get the liquid absorbed, and then just simply put it into the fridge. We don't want to overhandle pie dough because it becomes very tough. And in fact, the more you roll it out, the tougher it gets. So you want to just only grab the amount of dough that you need to make one crust. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is roll out a single crust, and we just need a ball about that big. Little flour on our work surface. Now the beauty of this dough is that it's moist enough that we don't have to worry about the amount of flour we put on our board. It's going to be fine. Sprinkle some on top. And this is my non-stick rolling pin. I love this guy. So you just start rolling from the center out, and you can start feeling when it's starting to stick, and that's when I bring in my little bench scraper. Just kind of lift that, a little more flour, and roll. Now again, it's just a light roll, and I lift up at the end. If you push down, you're going to smash your edge into the work surface, and then it won't budge. So just lift up when you get to the edge. So we're going for a circle. This one's not quite a perfect circle, but it's going to work. This is a single crust pie, so I have my pie pan. I flip it upside down, and I really only need it to be about 1.5 inches or so beyond the rim. So again, my handy little tool is sharp enough to just trim that. That aside. Did you see how easy that came up? Simple like that. Pie pan in front. Lift, and then you just center that halfway through and fold it over. Now, you want to push the dough into the base of the pan. You don't want to stretch the dough out, so I'm pushing that in. And what I mean is work it down into the corner of the pan. Now, all you have to do is get in here with your little fingers and roll that crust under. Just roll it until it meets the lip of the pan. This dough handles so simply. I mean, I can't tell you how many years I was as frustrated as the next guy or woman. So you just keep working that around, just rolling it under. And it's kind of a loose roll. I don't have to be particularly exact on that. Basically, the first step is to roll that right under. Then take your fingers and sort of clean up the edge by just pressing fingers together. Go all the way around. And then I like to work hanging off the edge so my hand has room. 2 fingers and 1. This is the simplest one to do, and basically I do it on all my crust. So now you can go ahead and you can make mini crust and freeze whatever you don't use, and then it's ready for the next time, and then you just simply pull it from the freezer and go from there. So that was pretty simple, and now you can simply par bake it or just freeze it like that and pull it out when you're ready to make your next pie.